Let's start with some news from China that's causing concern about the state of the economy.
Yeah, this is a survey of Chinese manufacturers for HSBC showing activity in the sector is at an eight-month low in March. The Purchasing Managers Index flash figure came in at 48.1, I think below 50 shows a sector in contraction. That, of course, adding to those continuing fears we've had recently about the slowing down of growth in the Chinese economy. Now, the bank says that is adding to those concerns. Not much pessimism, though, across the Asian markets there that you can see. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong up of well over 1%. Shanghai shares did fall back slightly after that news from HSBC, but generally a positive picture. The Nikkei in Japan leading the gains, bouncing back from some of those losses that we saw at the end of last week.
Well, from the stock markets to the currency markets and businesses here in France who say they're suffering because of the high value of the euro. That's next, Stephen.
Yeah, currency movements really have been one of the things that's moved the stock markets over the past 12 months. It's one of the major factors driving that change. Let's take a look at what's been happening between the euro and the dollar, which is of interest to this story. We can see the value of the euro has been rising against the dollar. It's up at a near high since 2011, in fact, of almost $1.40. We can see that that's been a steady climb over that period. This means, though, that European companies are finding their goods more expensive to sell on the international markets. In southwest France, the problem's affecting those companies that have sprung up around Airbus's headquarters in the aerospace sector. And from there, Chris Bachman has this report.
It's showtime. Daher Sakata may not be a household name like Airbus, but it's France's fourth biggest airplane maker and just unveiled its latest six-seater aircraft, the TBM 900. They cost €3.5 million each, and 80% of them are sold in the US and Asia. They are market leaders, but the company says they are competing against their rivals with one arm tied behind their back.
The high euro makes it very difficult for us to sell at the right price. So we have to invest much more than other countries in innovation, in robotization, automatization, in order to compensate the price of the euro.
3 hours away by car is this supplier, Ricardo. It has a niche market making parts for aircraft that are still flying but no longer being built. Just 15% of its business is outside the Eurozone, but management is under pressure from clients to bill in dollars, and that could mean less work for subcontractors in France.
To compensate for the fluctuation of the dollar, we have to buy a maximum of raw materials and components in dollars. So we're obliged to look for subcontractors outside the Eurozone.
Both companies say maintaining the aerospace know-how in Europe is their priority, but extremely difficult in the long term if the high euro means their overheads are automatically 20% higher.
Chris Bachman there reporting from southwest France. Well, staying with news from the aerospace sector, and the Asian low-cost airline Tiger Airways has agreed to buy 37 new Airbus planes. The A320neo have a list price even of $3.8 billion, although Tiger Air says it's negotiated a significant discount on that price. It's a major expansion for the Singapore-based airline, which currently has 48 planes in operation. Credit Suisse is reported to be considering up to 500 job cuts from its private banking division. The Swiss newspaper says up to half of the posts affected would be in Switzerland. The bank has refused to speculate on the number of jobs that could be affected, but has already announced it's targeting cost savings of €3.3 billion by 2015. And as the crisis in Ukraine continues, there was a sharp fall in the amount of money spent by Russian tourists in London last month. A study by the tax-free shopping company Global Blue found that spending by Russian nationals was down by 17% in February. Russians make up some of the biggest spending non-EU tourists to the UK, along with visitors from the Middle East, China and Nigeria.
Well, Stephen, just before you go, a word on our top story, of course, municipal elections here in France. What kind of costs has there been involved in those?
Well, of course, holding any election is a costly event for a country, but these municipal elections in France will cost the French taxpayer around €128 million euros. Now that includes 51 million, which is the cost of reimbursing candidates' expenses for taking part in those elections, something that's covered by the state here in France. The Minister of the Interior will also spend some 26.5 million on printing those election materials, both the ballot papers and materials sent to voters' homes. And there's almost another 11 million in that, counted for the expenses of the civil servants who will work actually on polling day, carrying out the voting and, of course, managing those polling efforts. There has been an ongoing effort as part of the French government's ongoing drive to bring down how much they're spending to try to make these elections a little bit cheaper, I can tell you, compared to the parliamentary elections back in 2012. They cost 164 million. The presidential election cost almost 200 million. So the cost of these local elections is lower than before, but still quite a lot of money, a significant slice of the budget there for the French government.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Stephen Carroll, thanks very much for that business update for us. Well, coming up in today's Focus, we look at an arbitrary detention system in China based on re-education through labour. And just a quick reminder of our top story that we're covering here for you on France 24. Exit polls suggest high voter apathy in French municipal elections, with more than 35% of people staying home. But that didn't stop the far right dealing a major blow to the embattled Socialist Party. Do stay tuned to France 24.